Well, I've already made two videos about the Arab-Israeli wars, and I figured it was time for a third. Anyway, I'm going to talk about why the IDF, or Israeli Defense Force, manages to do so well. Okay, for starters, they typically don't do very. They typically are facing an enemy that is not all that good. Granted, in the Yom Kippur War, as I stated before in my second video, the Arabs got their shit together. However, that is not always the case. They're usually working with what are known with Soviet gear that is what's known as a monkey model. A monkey model is a downgraded export version of the real stuff. This was done to, give American and other Western observers and a completely false impression of the capabilities of tanks, aircraft, APCs, or whatever. Not only that, I can go on and on about like how Arabs often have political armies that are used for political repression, and their generals are usually selected for loyalty rather than their abilities in combat. And I could go on and on about that, but I'm not going to. The fact of the matter is that a lot of times they're facing hollow armies, basically. And I'm going to leave it at that. The second reason is their backs are against the wall. They are the only thing standing between the Arabs and launching a second Holocaust. That's a pretty big motivation when you know that there's nowhere to run because you're surrounded by enemies in the Mediterranean Sea. You're going to fight pretty damn hard. And they just don't have the luxury of a retreat. If they lose, they all get wiped out. Now, granted, they did not succeed in Lebanon, which I will cover in another video. But that being said, another thing is that they've proven very adaptive, and they have built a wonderful specialist army. All their equipment that they get from other countries, other nations throughout history, they've modified. They put a 105 millimeter gun on a Sherman, and it was able to compete with, Soviet T-55s and T-62s. And that's pretty good. Granted, they did have Pershings, they had Patton tanks, they had Centurion tanks, and now they have their own Merkava tank. And they also like to modify. They also modify American aircraft, such as the F-16 and F-15, for use in the deserts from the Sinai to the Golan Heights. And they live in a very small part of the world. Their militaries operate in a very small part of the world. Granted, they did launch that rescue operation in Uganda, which was astonishing. But that's so far the farthest to my knowledge that they've ever reached out to. And granted, they have conducted some assassinations in Iran, etc. All that crap. Anyway, they also have mastered combined arms. People say that Israel owes its existence to Hitler because he got all the Zionists wanting to move to Palestine and create Israel. They also owe you could also, if that's your logic, you could also say that they owe their existence to Heinz Guderian as well. They learned a lot from the Wehrmacht, and they applied it very, very well. The whole Sinai campaign in the Six-Day War, the offensive there, that was a lot like the German invasion of France, where they conquered all of Europe. They always hit in places the Arabs the Egyptians never saw coming. And to top it all, and also, as far as we're on that subject, They have a very, very, very good tactical air force. The IAF, the Israeli Air Force, is outstanding. Back in the day, NATO thought you could only do 3 missions a day with aircraft, so not 3 times a day. They managed to pull off 5 missions a day. Their ground crews were able to work as a team and get those planes rearmed and refueled, and they were off again. And they constantly do a lot of really cool experiments. Like in 1959, I think it was, they marched the whole length of Israel. They had a bunch of soldiers march the full length of Israel, and they determined how much 1 liter per hour was needed in the desert to make sure soldiers stayed at optimal performance. And they also have a great intelligence gathering network, and they are just good at getting intelligence. It's amazing. And what else is amazing is that they also believe in training. They train constantly. And the IDF's, the tankers, they say the best tank is the one with the best crew. I agree with that completely. That is so very true. And they also have a great mobile reserve system. I mean, pretty much everybody was in the IDF at some point in their lives, and most of them can be called up at a moment's notice, and in 72 hours, I think it is, they can all be mobilized and ready to go. And that's quite impressive. The whole country is just ready for war at a moment's notice. And they also embrace new doctrines, and they're always looking at new technologies and trying to improve. They look at everybody's technology, and they learn so much from it. And they usually modify it to suit their needs, which they do very, very well. And I could just go on and on about this, but granted, in some cases, well, in a lot of cases, you can attribute it to Arab incompetence, but not all, especially not the Yom Kippur War. The Arabs were ready. They were not slouches that time. There's a big difference between what they were in 1967, which was the Six-Day War, and what they were in 1975 in the Yom Kippur War. Those were just 2 totally different armies, completely. And to top it all off, the IDF has won some pretty astonishing victories, and I've studied them, and I've learned a lot about military science and military art from them. And that being said, this will conclude my video. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and if you can, leave a donation. It's for a good cause. See ya.